Now, altcoin season has just started. Altcoin season, I'm calling it. I'm calling it right now. Even though people think this is crazy, but look at the evidence. You can't deny this. This today happened, right, when Bitcoin tanked to 88, 89K. When Bitcoin was in the 80s, altcoins were pumping, right? And you say, oh, well, that's because Bitcoin closed up to like 92, 93K, so that doesn't mean anything. What about all this? For the last 6 weeks, altcoins, this is not even including the top 10. So Ethereum, Solana, Binance, they're not even in here. And it's just been doing bull flag, bull pennant, right? Bull triangle, whatever you want to call it. And it's rising. Look at this. Here's more evidence. If you think altcoins are going up right now because that Bitcoin had a bounce, small bounce to like 93K today. Well, this is what happened to all the alts when Bitcoin crashed to 88, 89K today, right? It wicked up. When I took these screenshots off my phone, when Bitcoin was down at 88, 89K, I should have left Bitcoin up here because I've got too many coins to take photos of. But if you check the time, of when Bitcoin was at 88, 89K, this is the price of every other coin. All of them were in the green, except AVAX, which is slightly, almost green, slightly red, right? In alphabetical order, everything was green. Everything was up, right? No one was scared. You think if Bitcoin crashes into the 80s, right? From 123K, 126K, like 6 weeks ago to now 89K, on some exchanges have got to 88K, you think people would be mass panicking and dumping all their alts, right? All their alts are up, except one or two of them. What is causing this? So I have a very good explanation for this, and that's what I've been trying to warn everyone for the last 2 or 3 days. I've been saying this is what happens when you have end of QT. So it looks to me like this is total market cap of all alts except the top 10, right? In terms of dominance, in terms of what percentage it is, 7.5 out of all crypto, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stable coins. And we can see that it bottomed on that crash day of October the 11th, right? And then it's basically bull flag, breaks out, bull pennant, and about to break out again. And here we are. We're climbing, ready to take out 7.5%, even though that looks crazy. But why? Why is Bitcoin dumping and yet alts were doing this? What if I told you this is exactly what happened last time when the Fed ended QT as well? Here is when the last time the Fed ended QT. That's put it on the weekly chart so we can see it better. And so when did the Fed end QT? September 2019. At the start of September 2019. Okay, so here is where Bitcoin is right now. Others. Okay, here we go. So we have a look into September 2019. What happened here? It's basically others, which is all the mid caps and a few large caps, and most of the mid caps have been in a downtrend against Bitcoin. It's been going down against Bitcoin, right? You can call it a bear market, and you can call these mini altcoin seasons. But the real altcoin season started here. Boom, right? Small bear market, and then boom, small bear market, and boom, right? You cannot deny this ended what? Jan 2022, 10th of Jan 2022. Started here, the bottom was here, start of August 2019. This was a 2-year bull run in altcoin season. I'm not saying we'll get a 2-year bull run in altcoin season, but we are here right now because this date, September 2nd, right? See this red bar here? That's when altcoin season, that's when the Fed ended QT last time. And alts bottomed this day, basically almost exactly 1 month or 4.5 weeks earlier, right? And then ended this downtrend of mid caps versus Bitcoin and started this massive, and then took out these highs, went into this massive run against Bitcoin. What is basically happening today? Are we seeing the same situation here? Okay, so since the Bitcoin bull market started, which is, we all remember, that was late 2022, was around November 2022, around here. Around here, Bitcoin was 15K, and then basically it's been in a downtrend. It's been in a downtrend ever since, right? The last top in altcoin season, mid-cap alts have been in a bear season against Bitcoin, except these ones. These were short altcoin seasons, and now here we end QT on December the 1st on this bar here. And now we're, once again, 6 weeks beforehand, we bottomed, right? We bottomed. Now, so what happens to basically altcoin season? Which alts will run first? It will be the large caps or the mid caps or the small caps? Before we answer that question, first let's answer the question of which crypto exchange does Pablo He-Man use? Well, Pablo uses this exchange that's non-KYC. That means you don't need to show any ID. That means even the exchange can't see who you are. That means the tax office can't see you, IRS can't see you, the FBI, CIA, nobody can see you, right? So that's why I made this exclusive competition only on the Pablo He-Man link, up to $40,000 in prize pool, right? But limited time only. This finishes on November 20th evening. So get into it, folks. And if you're watching this on YouTube right now, then the link is in the description below. The link is in the description below. But if you're watching on any other platform, such as this one, that's okay. Just click on my profile page, right? And then there is my Linktree or Stan link. We click on that. It should be the first deal that pops up because this is a great deal. Okay, let's get back to the markets, folks. But remember, this great deal is only available on the Pablo He-Man link. It's only on the Pablo link. So here we can see once again the situation is pretty much exactly the same. We're expecting end of QT within 2 weeks, and yet QT is pretty much starting, and yet alts have bottomed, right? It's the exact same playbook as last time. You know what else is the same? People are wondering, why did Bitcoin dump to 88, 89K today, and yet alts are running up? Well, the reason is because, let me show you guys. This is what happened last time. Let's see. So this is a very important chart, and I'll show you guys this once again. Basically, we can see that last time Bitcoin, basically, what happened when QT ended, and we had 1, 2, 3 rate cuts, and yet Bitcoin kept on trending down, right? That seems to be what Bitcoin's doing right now. It went from around 14K down to about here, which is 6.5K. So it halved. Bitcoin halved in 2019 when they ended QT. When QT ends, Bitcoin tends to go down, right? It only goes up when QE starts again. Boom, we took off. We can't count that crash because that was COVID. So basically, like, QT ended around here when Bitcoin was around what, like 10K, and it got back to 10K, 10.5K. So it was roughly around the same area, right? It didn't really go higher, but it did take a dip, like 50% lower. By now, the market was expecting QE, thought QE was coming, and yet COVID hit first. So look, that's just how risky markets are. Let's say if we don't look at this, if we don't count COVID, right? I know I've explained this chart before, but this has become even more important now because what I've just explained a few days, I think I explained this chart like 3 weeks ago, and yet it is playing out exactly. We're about to leave this red area. We're about to into this white area, and Bitcoin only makes big runs in the blue area. That's what this chart is suggesting, right? So basically, we are now in this zone where Bitcoin tends to trend down. But I always say, if you're mathematically minded, if you understand statistics, this is a sample size of 1. So it happened once in history. We can't find any other examples because Bitcoin was only born in like 2009, 2010, and it basically only experienced one end of QT. That was 2019, right? So we don't know how well Bitcoin works during this end of QT, but so far it is tracking. But what if the Fed suddenly starts cutting more rates and doing more QE, right? So what could happen is here, look at this. How can we get QE soon and make Bitcoin pump, you ask, right? Well, just because it took 6 months back in 2019 to early 2020 to COVID doesn't mean it can't happen sooner this time. Because thanks to our buddy Donald Trump. Thank you, Donald, the great Don. Because he just said today, this is from today, he said, would love to get Fed Chair Powell out right now. We know that, but you don't hear many US presidents or presidents of any country saying would love to get the Federal Reserve Chairman out right now. He said, started interviewing for the Fed Chair. Right. By the way, do we know when the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is set to retire? It's May this year. So basically, and Trump must name his successor before Christmas. He could even do it by before December 10th. December the 10th is the next time the Fed meets for rates. Imagine if Trump names someone who he controls before December the 10th, before the next meeting. So look, I know the market is kind of down right now, but the thing is, I'm staying positive and I'm saying, look, we could have a bull market in alts. Let me show you guys this. Because every time when people are panicking, right, when there's a lot of fear, like this is a fear and greed index, right? This was the April bottom, say March, April bottom, April 7th, when once again, thanks to Donald, thanks to Trump, the US stocks and crypto crashed, Bitcoin crashed to 74K, Michael 73K that time when basically the trade deals blew up. And see how fear and greed index, when you're in green, it's extremely greed, and your yellow is fear, red is extreme fear. We dipped into extreme fear twice, and Bitcoin bottomed at 80K, and then a lower bottom at 74K, and that was the bottom. Up we go to 126K. Now we're at 15, which is extreme fear. Extreme fear, once again, we've dipped into the red once now, right? So we're not that far away from a bottom. And now imagine, let's say, look, I always say, let's say if Bitcoin has gone into a bear market, right? I gave that 30% chance for the last few days. Let's say 30% chance that Bitcoin has gone into a bear market right now. Then you will still have a massive bounce all the way up to like 116K, 118K to take out all the leveraged shorts, right? Take them out before you can go down. So right now, where's the bottom for a big bounce? Even if the dead cat bounced to like 105, 110K, that's still like another 20% move up in Bitcoin right now, right? So let's have a look at the Federal Reserve situation. The market is pricing in 55% chance we may not cut rates in December, because half the Fed is careful right now about inflation, and they're not looking like they're going to do full on QE. Yes, they'll end QT, quantitative tightening, but they may not do the printer of US dollars, which is full on QE, until later. They're just going to do what's called repos. I've done videos explaining this. This is technical, so I'm not going to jump into that right now. If you're in my Discord, I've explained this number of times, so you already know. But Trump could change the leadership, and he is. Jerome Powell is required by law to leave in May this year, and Trump's going to pick his successor by December. So then what happens is by December meeting, by December 10th, you could have this situation. You could have the old Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, hanging around saying, oh, we need to be careful with inflation, whatever. You have the new Fed chairman picked by Trump, who's going to say basically, oh, okay, we should cut rates, we should do QE right now, pump the markets, pump the economy right now. You have two Fed chairmen. The old guy who's going to be gone in a few months, 3, 4, 5 months, and you have the new guy who's going to be the new chairman for the next 10, 12 years. Their terms are like 10, 12 years. So who are you going to listen to? If you're working there, if you're one of the voters, one of the 12 voters, are you going to listen to the old guy who's going to be gone? Like, look at your own work situation. Think about your own office. Are you going to listen to the old boss who's going to be gone pretty soon, right? Or are you going to listen to the new boss who's going to be there for the next 10 years? If you want a promotion, if you want somebody to treat you right? If you want a raise, of course you're going to listen to the new boss. No one's going to listen to the old boss. And look what Trump is saying. He says, we have blown past Jerome Powell's interest rate stupidity. He says, people are holding me back from firing Jerome Powell, right? We have surprising names for the Fed. We may go the standard way. he says, I think already know the choice for the Fed chair. He's playing mind games. So basically what Trump really wants to do is he wants to name a surprising name. What that means is basically someone who's never been the Federal Reserve Chairman before, right? Someone like for example, he named Steve Moran, who's the White House economic advisor. He's on the executive bench of the Fed right now. Right now, that guy who keeps on calling for 50 points rate cuts, right? So Trump could name, and that guy has never even worked at the Fed for one day, not even as a junior economist. Trump could name someone like that completely outside the Fed, but who's completely loyal to him to go in there and basically just do 50 points rate cuts every meeting and start QE. Trump wanted to name his own trusted guy, which is Scott Bessent, who's Treasury Secretary right now. And Scott Bessent is smart enough to not take a role like this because you're basically going to go down in history as Trump's stooge who screwed up U.S. economy and caused huge stagflation and caused everyone to lose trust in the Federal Reserve. So Trump wants to name a surprising name, meaning someone you're not expecting, meaning this person has never even worked at the Fed for one day. And he says, oh, we may go the standard way, meaning that if I hint we're going to name this guy you've never heard of before, and if the market freaks out, if the media freaks out, then okay, I'll back down and I'll go with a standard name that's more acceptable. Someone like Gooseby or someone like Williams, who already is Fed chairman. So what does this have to do for altcoins? What I'm trying to say is basically the liquidity pump is actually coming. This situation we have right now could actually be very different from 2019, which is this chart. I understand that in 2019 we had some delay and Bitcoin actually went down. Yeah, look, the market right now is betting that Bitcoin will behave like 2019, which is 1, 2, 3 rate cuts and no QE. Basic QE only started here when disaster started, which is when COVID hit, right, March 2020. But right now, basically the market is, I'm saying that was one example, one case of what happened in the past. Yes, Bitcoin's going down, following this trajectory, following this path right now. This chart seems to be working out. But what if Trump finds someone crazily dovish, means someone who's very willing to be his stooge and cut rates and QE, right, much earlier than someone like Jerome Powell? What if that happens? If that happens, then I think we're going to have even a stronger confirmation that altcoins have bottomed against Bitcoin. I'm not saying altcoins have bottomed, full stop. Altcoins have bottomed against Bitcoin, right? It's called altcoins dominance or Bitcoin dominance, right? And look, this is a chart I'm seeing a lot these days because this is a 4-year cycle, exactly 1,064 days, and then Bitcoin topped exactly on October 6th, when Pablo made the video to say Bitcoin topped today, because today is exactly the top of the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. And because it topped today, therefore we're going to a bear market now. The guys who made these charts are looking smart right now. At the time when I made that video, I only said, I think there's only a 20% chance that we topped on the exact day that this 4-year cycle predicts, right? On the exact day. So look, it's right now, I still think it's only a 30% chance we topped. There's still a 70% chance we go up. But what if Bitcoin has topped? What if 126K was the top? Okay, if 126K was the top, this is the bull run in 2017. Bitcoin topped here and then had a massive crash and then had this was from what? From the top was at 20,000, crashed down to like 10,000, 50% crash, and it had a very much a dead cat bounce. See here, between start of 2018 to basically January 2018, Bitcoin had a dead cat bounce. The bounce was a 65% bounce, right? 65% bounce. And during that, look, it's from here to here, dead cat bounce. It only bounced up to what? 16, 17K, nowhere near the 20.5K top. And yet altcoins, this is once again, total crypto market cap except Bitcoin, so including ETH and Binance, BNB and all that, ran up 174%. Altcoins ran up 174%, right? So this is what I'm talking about. Even if we don't get a new all-time high in Bitcoin, we don't need to. We just need Bitcoin to bounce to something like 116K, and we could still have a magnificent altcoin season.